President Trump calls the controversy over the Epstein files a scam and a hoax cooked up by the Democrats.
The president is also shaming Republicans who want the files released, calling them stupid and foolish. George Thomas has the details.
President Trump isn't holding back, blasting those who buy into what he calls a hoax, even calling some of his own supporters weaklings for caring about the Epstein controversy. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein Hoax, and my past supporters have bought into this BS, hook, line, and sinker, the president wrote on Truth Social.
Mr. President, I know you want to...
And he didn't stop there. Here's the president's reaction from the Oval Office Wednesday.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work.
The Epstein files are court records tied to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking case that might reveal more about what he did and who else was involved. The Trump administration promised full release, but few details have come out, and Democrats accuse the administration of having something to hide. Some lawmakers want Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman convicted of helping Epstein recruit and abuse underage girls, to testify and shed more light on the case.
This is one of the worst human trafficking rings in American history, run by this scumbag. And I think the more we know about it, the more we get out there, the better it is.
More Republicans are joining calls for transparency.
You need to have all of the credible information released for the American people to make their decision. We trust the American people.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has released only limited files. Trump says she could share more if there's credible information. George Thomas, CBN News.
Well, CBN chief political analyst David Brody joins us now for more on this story. So the president's message, it's essentially from let's move on to now a full-scale attack. Why such a strong reaction?
Well, Gordon, he's upset. He believes that, the administration's been undefeated, if you will. In other words, got off to a great 6-month-plus start. And now he sees this as not just a sideshow, but a sideshow that won't go away. And he believes it's detracting and taking away from all of the great things this administration has done. And he's got a point on that. The problem here has always been the PR strategy, the strategy to kind of combat the MAGA faithful. See, here's what the White House has underestimated, that this is indeed important to MAGA writ large, specifically to about maybe 5 to 10% of MAGA. That's their line in the sand. Overall, MAGA still supports Trump, obviously. But the reason MAGA is not letting this go is because transparency and fighting against the deep state has been central to what MAGA has been all about. And you have the most transparent administration, according to MAGA, for these first 6+ months. And then ... wait a minute, what happened to transparency? And so it doesn't jive, it doesn't add up. That's why they're not dropping it. Not to mention, and this is really the very important part, the morality aspect of it. We're talking about sex trafficking here, minors. This has always been a moral crusade for many in MAGA, making sure there's justice. They want to see justice. And that's something that, the White House has had a real problem with as it relates to trying to figure out the PR strategy going forward on this.
Well, it just doesn't make any sense to me to try to cover up what is, I think, quite clearly a sex trafficking ring. You've got one person involved in it with a 20-year sentence. The whole tale just seems to be incredibly sordid. Isn't putting all of this into the light the only way to disinfect it?
100%. And to be clear, I think we need to kind of take a step back here and just look at this as to say, okay, we, the American people, may not have all the information here. You're basically going to, if you're in MAGA, you have the right people there. President Trump, Kash Patel at the FBI, Dan Bongino at the FBI, Pam Bondi to a degree at the DOJ. So you think you have the right people to expose all of this. So then the question becomes, well, then if they're saying that there's not much there, maybe they're right. This is something that MAGA, when I say MAGA, let me be clear. I'm talking about that 5, maybe 10% of MAGA. This is the line in the sand. This is their issue. They don't want to hear that. that maybe they're right. They believe there's a list. They believe there's lots of names. My sources are telling me that that may not actually be the case, that there are definitely some names out there, but any sort of list doesn't really exist. And I think that's what President Trump is trying to say, that the hoax part of this seems to be, the way President Trump is explaining it, is that there is no list. And that the MAGA has bought into this idea that there is an actual list. There is no list is what many in the administration are saying. And so therefore, while there might be some names that are still need to be redacted, if you will, in FBI affidavits in court, there's not that big to-do list that everybody was waiting for. And I think that that's part of it. But they need to be more clear on it, and they haven't.
Well, isn't Pam Bondi part of the, I mean, if there's a hoax,
Right.
isn't she part of the hoax? I mean, you know, she said the list is on my desk. You can't get any clearer than that. And so now to come out and say, well, there isn't a list, well, then, you know, there's an obvious discrepancy between the two. So is she going to survive this? Is she going to make it through this controversy?
I think for now she will. My spidey sense on this, Gordon, tells me we can rack this tape up in about 6 months or so. We'll see. I don't think ultimately she will. I think eventually, I think President Trump doesn't want to have the major distraction, and it'd be more than a distraction, major problem of letting his attorney general go right now, just 6 months into his administration. Remember, Jeff Sessions, of course, was let go the first time around in his administration. I don't think he wants to see that happen. Do I think she'll survive for now? Yes. Do I think ultimately she'll survive? No, I don't think so. I think there's frustration for sure. Because, look, Pam Bondi's big mistake here is, I mean, to use a kind of a Hollywood analogy, you're going to say George Clooney is going to show up at the premiere, and instead you get Dom DeLuise, womp womp. You know, it's like, you know, wait a minute. You can't promise Clooney and then not deliver Clooney at the premiere. And that's exactly what Bondi did on multiple occasions, not just with the MAGA influencers as it relates to those binders we saw them holding up saying, here come the Epstein files, or where she actually said, I've got the list right in front of me, and then she tried to backtrack that. So, yeah, I think she's in a bit of trouble for sure.
Well, what's the way forward here? Are we going to see some kind of congressional investigation? Do you think that's on the horizon? Do you think the FBI is going to act independently of the Attorney General? Do you think the administration is going to reverse course and say, let's disclose this? The horror of it goes on. I mean, one of the young girls involved in it committed suicide in Australia, and so the damage to the women, the girls, is ongoing, and we're going to continue to hear that. And so at some point, you've got to, you know, disinfect it by full disclosure. So when's that going to happen, and how's it going to happen?
Well, I think it will happen. Obviously, the timing on this, who exactly knows, maybe in the next week or two. But my sense is that whether it be Pam Bondi, my guess is it will be Pam Bondi, and others, who will have to come out and have some sort of rollout as to some of these unanswered questions. What she could do, Gordon, is call on those judges. They're the ones that have the power to, in essence, release the names of those that are in those redacted FBI affidavit files. The DOJ does not have that power, but the judges do. This is something Alan Dershowitz has talked about before, and that is true. I have confirmed that in terms of the judges being able to have that power. So that is something she could call on, and then, of course, some other things that she's going to have to do in that press conference to soothe MAGA. The other part of this would be a potential special counsel, not necessarily on Epstein, but more as we're starting to see a deep state counsel or special counsel to look into everything, including Epstein, things that have gone on in the last 10 years or so.
Well, there needs to be examination of the plea deal, the state court proceeding. All of these things, it just, frankly, from the outside, it looks like a huge mess. And my concern is the administration losing credibility. And will anything they do right now, is it going to be viewed as yet another cover-up? It just... I don't understand why. You would campaign on the issue. You would say the list is on my desk. You would do those things. And then here we are at the revelation moment, and you pull it all back. It just really doesn't make any sense to me.
Incompetence, I think, at this point. And I think a lot of it rides with Pam Bondi and getting out ahead of the skis on that.
All right. Well, David, thanks for joining us. It looks like you're going to have an exciting year.
Oh, can't wait.
All right.